Hi, welcome to Module 4 on Diverse Text. The focus of this week is to get you started on your text set assignment. The text set is going to guide you through your lesson plans for this class. Because the focus of this class is integrating the language arts into the content areas, so thinking about literacy across content areas, and specifically thinking about working with informational text, your lesson plans for this class and your text set need to revolve around an informational text tied to either a social studies or science topic that is appropriate for your grade level that fits within the Mississippi Framework Standards for Science and Social Studies. So when you go to the field this week, you need to talk to your ELA mentor teacher to discuss what content area topic, science or social studies, that would be appropriate to use with your students. So today I want to introduce you to my text set that revolves around Moonshot. If you look at the text set directions, the text set asks you to find a mentor text that is one that you will select a text that is either a Common Core exemplar or an award winner or a Mississippi Common Core exemplar. And so Moonshot meets all three of those. It is a Mississippi Common Core exemplar, it is a regular National Common Core exemplar, and it is an award-winning text. You don't have to have all three criteria. You need to meet one of those, but Moonshot is a text that is an award winner and viewed as one of those exemplars by the Common Core state standards. So it is kind of a double dip there. My text set is this document here, and you have the template in your Module 4. We're not going to look at that template in detail until next week, but go ahead and download it, look at the pieces and what you're required to include, because there is information there that you need to look at in the template, but then also in the directions for the text set to help facilitate conversation with your mentor teacher. And if you have questions about your text set topic, please make sure that you either come to my office hours on Thursday night, you email me, we set up a time to discuss your questions so you have a productive next few weeks working on this document. So for my text set, like I said, I'm using the text Moonshot, The Flight of Apollo 11 by Brian Floca. And I'm using this with a third grade class. This is a Common Core exemplar for third grade. And it is Lexile level appropriate for third grade. It's AD 830, which means it is adult directed. It's a little bit higher than the third grade mark if you look at the Lexiles according to Common Core's College and Career Readiness. Lexile grade bands or stretch bands. However, because it's adult directed, it is something that I can use in third grade, and it's not going to be too difficult for my students. So I wanted to click on this text and show you a few images from Moonshot so you could see what the text looks like. So it's got beautiful illustrations, and it's about the flight of Apollo 11. And the focus of my text set is looking at Apollo 11, but also looking at the historical figures that were part of this race to the moon. And so I'm looking at this through the lens of social studies. This could also be a science text set if I looked at the science standards and used this with a higher grade level, which I could use Moonshot with a higher grade level, depending on if it was appropriate for my students in regards to their reading abilities, and focused more on looking at the characteristics of the moon or looking at the NASA component in research for NASA itself. So you can see some of these images. It's a beautiful text. Absolutely beautiful. So the other articles and or the other texts that I'm using for my text set include articles and videos and images. And so I want and another informational text. And I want to share those with you. So one of the articles that I'm using is from the Daily News. And this is Apollo 11 lands the first man on the moon in 1969. This article was originally published on July 21st, 1969, and it's obviously about the first landing. Because it's written at a higher grade level than what's appropriate for third grade, I am going to take this article and write out segments in more student-friendly language to use with my kids. But I want them to have the actual article as well because it is a great secondary source to introduce them to more details about the Apollo 11 landing. Another text that I'm using are the Apollo 11 images from the Apollo 11 image gallery, specifically images from the moon. And so I have images here in this gallery that I can display for my students on the smart board, focusing on the moon's surface. One of my lessons is going to deal with having the students look at the description of the moon itself and how Armstrong describes the moon and walking on it. So this is from the NASA website. Another text that I'm introducing my students to is the Apollo 11 EVA, where Neil Armstrong descends the ladder of the Eagle, the Apollo 11 lunar module, and walks on the surface of the moon. And so just playing this a little bit for you here.
Roger, TV circuit breakers in. Space pod clear. Roger. And we're getting a picture on the TV. Oh, we got a good picture, huh? There's a great deal of contrast in it, and currently it's upside down on our monitor.
So you can see here that this is the live footage from Armstrong's walk, where he utters those famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Another text that I'm using is also from the Daily News, and this is excerpts of talks between the Apollo 11 crew and Mission Control. And so this was published in 1969 as well, July 21st. And it's a nice text because it provides students with dialogue from the men in Mission Control and the astronauts up in space on the Eagle, which was the lunar module, and the Columbia, which was the command module. So this is an article, so to speak, that I am using, another secondary source. I'm also going to use Mission to the Moon, which is a informational text. It's produced in cooperation with NASA, and it has images of the moon, facts about the moon, pictures. It's got a DVD that includes the Apollo 11 blastoff and the moonwalk, and talks a lot about different aspects of the space race and all the missions for the Apollo program. So this is a text that I'm going to have my students look at in their lesson plans. I'm also going to show the students the New York Times Men Walk on the Moon front page, which is a very iconic newspaper front page from that lunar landing in 1969, and it also has the text of the articles down below. This is from the New York Times New York Times website. And so, like the article from the New York Daily News, I'm also going to rework some of this to make it more appropriate for third graders. And then finally, I'm going to show the students footage from Walter Cronkite anchoring the first moonwalk. This video is one that was produced by CBS and is an overview of the mission with the launch and then Cronkite anchoring the moonwalk. So to play a few seconds of this for you.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
So what's also nice about this video is it's relatively short, 3.5 minutes, and it introduces them as well to Kennedy. It shows them footage from the launch. It shows them a news anchor, Walter Cronkite, and his excitement of the launch and the moonwalk. And so this is a source that I'll be using with my students. So in the Module 4 folder, you have examples of 3 text sets. They're all 3 social studies. You have one on civil rights, Civil War with the Underground Railroad, and this is written for 4th grade. You have my example from space flight, which is 3rd grade, for the flight of Apollo 11 with Moonshot, and then you also have one for 6th grade with Frederick Douglass. So you have access to all of these. You also have access to the Assessment 1 study guide, and I want you to please pay attention to the writing underneath the Assessment 1 study guide handout for you that says, please prepare your short responses before you take the assessment so you have a well thought out response to each of those responses asked during the test. You're going to have 2 hours to take Assessment 1. I want you to prepare your 3 short answer responses outside of that 2-hour window so you have them ready to go for the assessment. Okay? Please make sure you followed the directions for that assessment. Now going back to your text set, once you talk to your mentor teacher and you get your topic, this week what I want you to do is start locating sources that you can use in your text set. You're going to need a mentor text that is an children's informational book like Moonshot, and then you're going to need at least 4 additional text that can be, like I said, images, charts, graphs, tables, audio, video, poems, primary sources, secondary sources, letters. You have the sky's the limit, but they need to be quality sources. And you're going to post these to your discussion board by Thursday and then respond to your colleagues' sources of information, things they're thinking about using in their text set by Sunday night. Please remember that I do have office hours on Thursdays, and I'd be happy to meet with you and talk about the text set during my office hours. So if you have questions, please feel free to come by those office hours and ask them. Next week when we get to UBD and gradual release of responsibility, I will go into more detail about the directions and the template for the text set in regards to how everything's going to be set up for this submission, for this assignment. But please go ahead and read the directions, the rubric, and the template this week so you're familiar with it when you're talking to your mentor teacher.